Fair warning, a lot of people are not going to like this video. So whenever I make videos like these that don't really talk more about the positive side and I give you guys more of a realistic perspective about Pokemon investing and the other side that a lot of people don't really like to talk about, a lot of negativity comes with these videos. However, I just like making these videos, especially for new investors out there in Pokemon, to be realistic about your expectations with Pokemon investing. Because when you search up Pokemon investing on YouTube, do it right now. Search up Pokemon investing. All the YouTube channels and all the videos that will come up will only talk about Pokemon investing in a positive light. They'll talk about how all these sets are doing so great, how you would have made so much money if you bought them. However, they will not talk about the other 8 sets that have been released that really aren't doing anything. And I know a lot of you guys out there are going to be like, well, I'm in it for the long term, so if they're not doing anything right now, I don't really care because I'm going to hold this for 5 to 10 years. But let's be real here. A lot of people are not going to be like that. A lot of people that are especially new to investing, it's possible, in a year from now, maybe a year and a half, you'll get out the hobby because you're not interested anymore. You're maybe just, have another hobby, you need the money, whatever the case may be. A lot of people that are doing this are not going to be in it for 5 to 10 years. And that's kind of, the, basis I'm, making my point on here. So if you aren't in it for the long term, what I'm saying here doesn't really apply to you because if you're in it for the long term, it doesn't really matter. But for the people, and most of the people that are probably in it for the shorter term, I think this video is important and to just give you a perspective about Pokemon investing. Because like I said, all these channels, all they do is talk about positive things and how all these sets like 151, Twilight Masquerade, Paldea Evolved, all of them are doing so well. They're like 140, 150. 155 is like, or 150, why did I say 155? 151 is like $80 now. So they'll only talk about those sets. But how about the other 8 sets that have been released that are doing nothing? And some of these sets are closer to a year old or a little bit more than that, and they have not gone up in value whatsoever. So it's important because there's a thing called time value of money, right? If you, bought something like 2 years ago that didn't gain any value, was that a good use of money? No. If you're in it for the long term and you don't want to play this predicting game and time in the market, sure. But a lot of people, they just say pre-order all these sets and whatever and just wait and sit on it. Yeah, you will, if you wait 3 to 5 years, it'll probably do decent, right? But it's possible that still some of these sets that are a year or two old, they have done nothing. So it's not really a smart use of money in that way, in terms of like shorter term, that it's possible you could be tying up your money to something that's not that great, which is why I personally don't pre-order. But for you guys out there that have this unrealistic expectation that you've kind of gained from watching these investing channels that will say just pre-order the set because it's going to go up a ton in value, I would be careful. So this video is it's not a negative even perspective of Pokemon investing. It's more just being realistic because you will see percentage wise, a lot of these sets that get released, they don't tend to do that well within a year or two. Most of them don't do anything. There are some outliers, but for the most part, don't have this expectation when you're pre-ordering the set that in 6 months it's going to skyrocket in value, because for a lot of these, it's probably not. So first here, we have Scarlet and Violet base. So this is not a great example because yes, this got a huge reprint. It's a base set, but this set was released almost 2 years ago, about a year and a half. And you could have gotten these boxes, I know, for a cheap price, but all the sets I'm showing you, I'm basing it off of basically a release price. So for booster boxes, around $100. For elite trainer boxes, around $35. That's, I think, pretty fair. So what is it at right now? It's at $95. So $95, you got it probably at around $100. You add all the taxes and everything. You probably bought these at $100 at release. So in about a year and a half, that did absolutely nothing. And you got to remember, you have to sell this stuff, so you have to take fees, shipping into consideration. So you tied up your money for a year and a half to this box, and it did absolutely nothing. And honestly, in my opinion, if you look at how this has been doing, I think it's going to sit here for another year at this price. Maybe go up to $100, $105. But even still, take, shipping, fees. 2-3 years, you probably held up your money. It did absolutely nothing. So perfect example, of a way that, Pokemon investing, at least in the short term, didn't really work out because, it's just not that great. It's not that popular. There's a lot of supply. And that's why it's only $95. Obsidian Flames. August 11th, 2023 is when it was released, so about a year ago. A lot of people, I feel like, are talking about Obsidian Flames recently and saying that how, this is a perfect example of a bad set doing well. But is it really doing well? So like I said, we got to think about, time value money and all these other fees, right, that you have to take into consideration when seeing the box price. It was sitting around like $95, $100 for a while. You can see here, it was sitting there for a while, but just recently it had this spike. But still, think about it. Let's be realistic. $114, okay? If you bought a release for around $100 a box, because that's very realistic, take fees and shipping. You're still not making any money. And you held your money up for a year. So like I said, I know I'm talking about more shorter term stuff here and people are going to get mad at that. But like I said, I'm trying to be realistic. I'm not saying you're going to hold this for 5, 10 years because that's not really realistic for especially new investors, right? In that amount of time, still you wouldn't have made any money if you sold right now. Paldean Fates. So this is, some of these sets that I'm going to show you here. I'm just showing you all the Scarlet and Violet sets. Yes, it's not really fair to really, view it right now if it's doing bad or good because they haven't had time to grow or whatever. But I just want to show all the sets in the Scarlet and Violet era because I want to show you guys how many sets really don't perform that well or skyrocket in price like some of them do. So Paldean Fates is only like 10 months old, so I know it's really not a good comparison. If you bought these around $35, whatever, because that's somewhat realistic, $45 right now, take all the fees and shipping, you're still not really making any money, and Paldean Fates really isn't that popular. So there's that. Really not much to say, but because it's a newer set. But Paradox Rift. So this is a perfect example I like to give of a set that people say is really good, underrated, whatever. But this set is almost a year old now. It came out 11 months ago. It's about to be a year old here in a month. But Paradox Rift, it's almost a year old, right? Look at the box price. In a whole year, it would have done absolutely nothing. Because you would have bought these probably around 100. It has done nothing in a year. Will it go up in the next year? Maybe, right? But still, think about it. You tied up your money, you bought this a year ago, and it has done nothing. And you got to think about it this way too. Like, you got to take fees and shipping, all this stuff into consideration when you're looking at box price. Because unless you're selling at market price, like in person or whatever, I mean, still, like, that's not really realistic. A lot of people are going to sell online or whatever. So take these things in consideration when looking at the box price. So you would actually be down, in my opinion. But still, you can see all these sets. 1, 2, 3, 4. If you sold right now in the time frame you would have had to sit, your money into these products, you would have not made any money in that time frame. Shroud of Fable. So this is a new set. I know it's only a few months old, but the box price is like $30 because this set is just, a lot of people are hyping the set up thinking that it was a great idea, this like spooky theme. It's like $30, so you would have actually lost money. Then Stellar Crown. So these are all newer sets, yes I know. But Stellar Crown had a lot of hype, released literally just a month ago. And the box price, it's around like 100. Like, people, I don't know why people talk about Stellar Crown like they're surprised that the market price is around $107. You can still find these for $100 easily, but the market price is $107. And people still like to give this example that, this is such a strong set because of that $107. If it's $100, $107, $110, it doesn't honestly really matter. At least in the shorter term, it doesn't really say anything. But people like to say that this price, because I've seen some people say that Stellar Crown, the price it's at right now, it shows it's a strong set or whatever, something like that. It's honestly kind of funny, but still at 107. Obviously, I can't even talk about this because it's way too new. And then now I want to go into the sets that are performing a little bit better. So Temporal Forces is doing decent, a little bit better or around the same as Obsidian Flames, but I just put it here because I do think Temporal Forces has more potential than Obsidian Flames, so I think it will outperform it and it is going to do better like shortly here. But this set is another one where it's not that old. This set is like 7 months old. And you can see it's actually started to go up in price. I know it's a little bit under Obsidian Flames right now, but if you go on actually look at the sales or like the listings, you can't really get them for this price. Like, they're around 110, 115. You go on eBay too, they're around 115, 120. So it's around the same as Obsidian, but I just put it back here because I think it's a little bit better. But now here are the sets that everyone talks about, just the good sets, right? Paldea Evolve. So this one was released a little bit over a year now, and it's at $140. So obviously we know a small reprint, whatever is supposed to happen. So you can take that what you want with this, but it's still at 140. So in a year and a half, whatever, it has done decent. You probably bought these at $100. You up 40%. So this is it's doing pretty well. Twilight Masquerade released. So this is an example of like what a lot of people like to give of how Pokemon investing is so great, is that they look at these sets like Twilight Masquerade were released May 24th, so it was only like 4 or 5 months ago or whatever, and it's doing really well. It's at $140 a box, so in 4 or 5 months you're up like $40 each box. That's very good. And then 151, it's only like a year old, and look at the Elite Trainer box price. They're $85, right? So these are the three outlying sets, right, that have done very well in the short term. So 1, 2, 3. So let's look at the other sets that really aren't doing that well in terms of the time frame and your money being tied up to them. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 3 out of 10 sets have done good. Obviously, some of these are newer than others, so it's hard to say, right? But I'm talking about more shorter term. It's like tying up your money. And that's one thing people don't like to talk about because everyone is supposedly in this for the long term, that, it doesn't matter that it's not doing anything right now because in a year from now, it's going to do well. Well, to say that honestly is kind of like a cop out because we can see here with some of these products that are a year old, year and a half old, like Scarlet Violet Base, Paradox Rift, they have done absolutely nothing. So this is not to be negative about Pokemon investing, and I know everyone, like I keep saying, because I'm trying to, tell you guys, I know a lot of people are out this for the long term, and I understand that. But for the most part, a lot of people aren't going to be, and that's just realistically what's going to happen with a lot of people. So don't have this unrealistic expectation that when sets release 6 months to a year from now, it's going to be super expensive because it needs time to grow. It needs supply to get out of the market. It needs time to grow, and don't think that when you pre-order a set that in 6 months from now it's going to skyrocket in price. It can happen. Look at Twilight Masquerade. But don't think that you're going to buy a box and then in a short amount of time, within a year, it's going to skyrocket, because it's a very unrealistic expectation, because you will see here, like I've shown you, the majority of these sets are not going to do that. It's just, the outlying sets. So that's all I wanted to say today, is just be realistic and be careful with who you watch and say that, pre-order the set now because this box is going to go crazy in price. It can happen with a popular set, but a lot of these sets don't do that. So just want to make this video to be realistic with you guys and show you that a lot of the sets, don't really perform that well. And even if a box goes up $10, $20, you take all these fees and all these shipping costs, you're still not making any money. And that's one thing I think a lot of people don't really, take into account when they're saying, well, Obsidian Flames, it showed that it's, look how much it's gone up. It's gone up, what, $14 in the past, maybe like 3 months. Okay, but still taking the fees and everything like that, you're still not up money. So just people don't take these factors into account, and they like to paint a picture that even these boxes that are not, they're like $120, you're doing well on, because you're really not, because you're still not up money. So that's all I wanted to say today, just to give it a more realistic side to this whole Pokemon investing thing and show you guys that a lot of sets are not doing that well, at least in the shorter term. But definitely, like I said, if you are in it for the longer term, this stuff does not matter. But for you guys out there, that are maybe new to this, and it's possible that you will just be in this for the shorter term, don't expect these boxes to just skyrocket in price. And that's one thing I'd be careful of watching these channels, is that I feel like a lot of them do paint an unrealistic expectation about, how these prices move with these products, because there's outlying sets that people talk about all the time, but they will not talk about these sets that have been sitting for a year and a half, that have done absolutely nothing. So that's all I wanted to say today. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you on the next one.